It is such a pleasure. I guess I should sit down for me to be here today. And I want to say this to the panelists, first of all. Although the Community Film Workshop started working, our program was developed by the Office of Economic, OEO, Office of Economic Opportunity, through the federal government and the Community Film Workshop Council of New York and the Ford Foundation to help get, in those days, minorities into the film industry. So the Community Film Workshop of Chicago was the last workshop founded in 1971. And exactly a year later, we were defunded. So we owe a lot of our existence to those communities, foundations here in Chicago. But not only that, what's so significant about it is that in 1971, we developed a program that trained men and women to work on movies, to work in television and production houses on a very small budget. It's 2021. And now people are trying to replicate that program to produce new filmmakers and technicians to work in the movies here in Chicago. So it has taken people 50 years to really think about workforce development in terms of the film industry here in Chicago. Now that's very significant in our discussion today, simply because it's very important that we have organizations headed by people of color and whose mission is really to serve the people and to represent our culture. And so it's such a pleasure for me to do this, to be here tonight, because it has been a long time coming. And as I told Yvonne, that I've been waiting on you all to help me. It is so important. It's just so important that our organizations are not headed by other people, and it's important that we tell our story. So everybody has been introduced, and I'm just going to start with Michelle on the end. And I just want you to tell me a little bit of what drove you to want to do the Chicago Southside Film Festival. This is for everybody. Okay. And your mission and, your passion, your real passion for what you do.
I want to thank everyone for coming out. I am Michelle Kennedy. I'm a Southside native, and I am the wearer of all hats for the Chicago Southside Film Festival, founder, executive director, and co-producer now. I founded the festival 5 years ago with the intention to bring high quality film, independent film made by Black filmmakers from the South Side to Southside audiences, period. Our mission statement came, a few years later as we sort of navigated the reality of, the people that showed up and the films and the circumstances we found ourselves in. So our mission statement is a two-part mission statement. The first part is to create opportunities for Southside filmmakers to screen in their own communities, period. There are only 2 movie theaters right now on the South Side of Chicago. We were talking about this up in the green room. We're down to 2 movie theaters. And so there are not a lot of opportunities for people on the South Side to see films together, period, right? But when you want to see a film that's not in commercial distribution, that was made by somebody from the South Side, there's really nowhere to go. So we decided to create that opportunity. So that's the first part of our mission statement. The second part of our mission statement is to use film as a tool for collective intellectual and community engagement. I love documentary films, and I feel that documentary films are very effective at telling our stories, telling our history, and communicating, large ideas that are really worthy of intellectual engagement. And so that, that's our mission. That's what we're here for. We screen primarily at what initially was ICE Cinemas on 87th. It became Studio Movie Grill, and it reopened last week as Imagine Chatham. And so we screen there for the most part, but we also screen at IIT, we screen at churches, we screen at community centers, we screen at art galleries, and we just really want to make sure that filmmakers from the South Side, because there are a lot of them, there are a lot of people in the South Side of Chicago making films. We want to make sure that, you know, if they don't get into Cannes or Tribeca or even, you know, Black Heart, Black, whatever's going on downtown Chicago, we want them to know that there's a home for their film and that there are audiences that want to support them.
Right.
I decided to get into it. Just a caveat, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm from a banking background. And so a little bit of me, you know, approached the film festival as sort of like a venture capitalist. Just wanted to see if this idea would work. And it's worked. We're in year 5. Last year we went online because obviously the quarantine shut everything down. We had great, you know, responses to the films that we screened online. We were able to stay on our mission. We're back this year. We hope to be back in theaters and beautiful places like this, and we hope to keep engaging with Southside filmmakers and Southside audiences.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Walden, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sisters in Cinema. I have to say that Margaret and Jim were some of the first folks that I met when I decided I wanted to become a filmmaker. I'd moved back to Chicago, it was in the early 90s, and they had everything there for me. Workshops, classes, but really what was important was to see that there were people who looked like me making media, because when I went to film school, I was the first Black woman to get a master's, an MFA in film and video at the School of the Art Institute. So that just shows you how important what Margaret and Jim, because of them, I knew I could become me. So, and while I was in film school in the early 90s, I only knew the name of one Black woman feature film director, which was Julie Dash. And so I started a project back then called Sisters in Cinema because I wanted to find my sisters in cinema. And it started off as a database, and then you know, the internet happened, so I went online and started a website in the 90s called Sisters in Cinema, where we started crowdsourcing information about Black women filmmakers. I then also decided to do a doctorate, so I'm actually Dr. Yvonne Welbin, and I wrote a dissertation, which remains the only history of Black women filmmakers. And then in doing all of that, I had enough information to do a documentary, also called Sisters in Cinema. And it's on the history of Black women filmmakers. And in doing all of that, I have amassed what is perhaps one of the largest archives of African-American women media makers' work, which led me to starting a nonprofit called Sisters in Cinema. I was one of the first recipients of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, and so bought a building in South Shore. It's not really that far from here. It's on 75th Street between Crandon and Oglesby, and that is going to institutionalize my life's work of Sisters in Cinema. There'll be a little archive space, and our mission really is to serve Black women, girls, and gender nonconforming media makers with the goal that they can you know, through our programs to help them thrive and become who they want to be as media makers. Because we're anchored in the community, the space, something like this, we're nowhere near as big as this. Maybe this is the size. No, it's a little bigger than this. It's only 5,000 square feet, but because we're anchored in South Shore, it'll be a place for the community to come. We are really hoping that Southside Film Festival. we have a very tiny theater, and right now, depending on which vendor we go with, and what seating we pick, it might be about 35 to 45 seats, which is perfect for this audience, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And also the space has a video gallery when you walk in. There'll be 24/7, you can see our work playing on the video screens in the video gallery. Then the theater space, we hope to have programming that is generated by the community. We have I'm losing my voice today. We have an editing lab, we have a conference room, and we have a small display where the archive will be rotated through that space. So that's a lot.
Yes.
That we're working on. Thank you.
Yeah. Justin.
Thanks again for letting us join you all on this wonderful stage with this wonderful group of panelists and hosts. Thank you, Chicago Humanities Festival as well, and thank you all for being here. I'm really kind of standing in for a superstar. So our founder, Dr. Jacqueline Stewart, is a professor of cinema studies at the University of Chicago, the first Black woman host of Turner Classic Movies, and also the founder of the Southside Home Movie Project in 2005. I serve now as the archivist and project manager, and filmmaking, particularly amateur filmmaking, is something that's close to my heart as well. And I've been lucky enough to work with a few of you all on stage on different projects and initiatives to make sure that more things are possible, particularly through the institutions which are here and the ones which we know these resources could be sent to and equitably shared with. So with the Southside Home Movie Project, we were founded in 2005 during a moment where particularly we were starting to rethink what is this canon called film, and what film documents exist to actually show and represent society, perhaps from a different point of view. So thinking outside of Hollywood, what else can we see in film that allows us to say, this is how we live, this is how we are as a people and a culture, and particularly let's think about a place called the South Side of Chicago. And so we started looking at, Professor Stewart started looking at home movies being a genre which traditionally were not preserved, which were traditionally not gathered or collected or seen as historical cultural objects. In a moment in time when the kind of the dominance of Hollywood was being pushed back, and we started even looking at things like regional newsrooms or regional film collectives to say, okay, these folks are following history alongside what Hollywood was saying was happening in these places. And so the mission of the Southside Home Movie Project is to collect, to preserve, to digitize and research, and then exhibit these home movies. And we were lucky enough to be joined by an international community that's concerned with this as well. And so home movies from Chicago have been seen in a number of places by a number of audiences, international at scale. And we've learned that exhibiting it not only puts it into the historical record, but also when we bring it into the community, also brings out the community to gather and to share and to remember a moment in time, which really gets at the heart of and pride of when folks say, I'm from the South Side of Chicago. And so it's been a great pleasure for us to look at those 5 pillars of our mission and to think creatively of how can an archive that is situated at a university be community facing? How can it actually be a record, a place where folks say, this is where I'm leaving something precious to me, to my family, and I know that's being taken care of. And so our screenings, our talks, they would happen in coffee shops, they would happen at senior citizen homes, they would happen with the presence of which home movies were originally shared. And that was with food, maybe some popcorn, maybe some music going as well, like you all maybe experienced with Ray Chardonnay. Thank you, DJ Ray Chardonnay, with the home movies playing behind you. And to also to give them backstory, because these images are very similar to what we create right now. Maybe some of y'all in the audience, y'all create reels on Instagram or TikToks, these small moments, 1 or 2 minutes, you know, and that's really kind of what you could shoot with a reel at that time. And so you're seeing some fragments of memories. And so it's the stories, it's the film donors that really hold the rest. And so we find ways to marry the two and to bring back the culture and the music and the vibes in all the interesting ways which we can. And at the same time, give a different portrait of the South Side of Chicago that often gets only a one-dimensional narrative.
Well, thank you all for those introductions. And I want to go to something that's very key that you've all mentioned in terms of your mission and how that propels your programming and why it's so important that it's in the community. So I'm really interested in how the mission has, how the people in the community and how the artists that you serve have responded to this, and what has been some of the benefits of you being in the community, because I already know them, but I just want you to share them with the audience. You know, really, I know I know what you've gone through because I've been there. Okay, we're going to start again. We're going to make yours shorter now, okay?
Sure, I'll keep it short. So, well, earlier this year, we had a chance to do a talk at Sundance called What Use is a Home Movie Archive? Mm-hmm. And particularly the talk was about the afterlife of home movies. And so this is where home movies move from being a personal, intimate portrait of a family gathering or a milestone to something that actually serves as a window into community. And so we've worked with a number of documentarians, we've worked with a number of artists in their attempts to recreate moments in time that are relevant to our current moment. And so we saw films like Unapologetic that used that found reasons to use the home movie archive. We saw Driving While Black found ways to use our footage. And so we are constantly rethinking how to reuse the footage in a way that honors the spirit in which it was taken, but allows us to recontextualize the moments of today.
Okay.
Thank you for that shout out for Unapologetic. Unapologetic was directed by Ashley O'Shea, and she is one of our documentary fellows. And she actually had her theatrical premiere for her film at the Gene Siskel Film Center last night, and starting in Chicago, then moving to New York, and then Los Angeles. Hopefully we'll be in 30 cities. Mm-hmm. So that is a filmmaker who is part of our documentary fellows program. Mm-hmm. And in that, there right now we have a cohort of 6 documentary filmmakers. 3 of them are based in Chicago and 3 of them are not. All of their films are definitely have social justice at the heart. And we provide, what we're doing with them is trying to help them not struggle. Try to help them not become that, you know, oh, you're an artist, you have to be a starving artist. No, how do you have a sustainable career as a filmmaker? Yeah. So they have goals that they have to start with each year, mm-hmm. and we are helping them achieve their goals. They work as a cohort and help each other. Your problem is my problem, and you know, you might not know it yet, but it's fabulous the way that they all work together. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna mention one other program. We have something called the Newsroom, and that's for 14 to 18-year-olds. And we did one pilot, and we kind of made it super journalistic, and we realized it needed to be social media journalistic on the next go round. And it was super successful. They took over all of our social media channels as their final project, and learned a lot about how to tell a story and how to tell a story about our community, about those in our community who are also working to tell our stories. So those are just like 2 of our programs.
Yeah, I'd like to just say one thing in terms of how we are all connected, because Unapologetic started as a project in Diverse Voices and Dots, which I helped co-found with Cartemplin Films. And then she received another grant for our co-fellows in that program. And now she's with you. And that's the whole point of Diverse Voices in Docs, is to help emerging filmmakers of color to get their project together, where we do the pitching, the marketing, the development, helping them to connect them with funders and to get their project seen. But filmmaking takes so much. I mean, most people don't know the time involved in doing a documentary can, go from 5 to 9 years or longer, to do a documentary piece. So it requires a lot of support. And I'm just so happy that you're moving that along, because we need each other. And we start with, like, even with the Southside stories that we're developing with the Production Institute. They wanted to know, what's the next step, Ms. Capers? So, I said, Diverse Voices in Docs.
And I do want to add that our Documentary Fellows Program, it used to be a year-long program, but we changed it to career-long. So the Documentary Fellows in that program, until she is ready, she or, they, them, until they are ready to opt out. So we noticed that you really do need support for longer than that, that initial.
Yeah.
Hi, so our festival steps in once the content is deemed presentable to the world. But let me back up. So until we founded our festival in 2017, there were roughly 100 periodic film-centered events that happen in the city of Chicago on a regular basis. Some of them are festivals, some of them would just be, like a quarterly or monthly screening at a college or university or at a school or a church. So there were 100 of these events ranging in complexity from, the month-long Chicago International Film Festival to something that might just be a few films on the last Sunday in March at some Orthodox church in Glenview. So, there were 100 of these events, and not one of them screened films on the South Side of Chicago on a regular basis. Some of them would come to the South Side on occasion, typically to a library. But there was literally just nothing south of Madison, right, where the School of the Art Institute, there was nothing on the South Side for people from the South Side to engage with non-commercial films, right? So if you're on the South Side and you're an audience member, you're a consumer of film, you have to go downtown, or you have to go to the North Side, or you have to go to the suburbs to see a film. And I just felt like, in 2017, that just didn't make sense. So that was part of the impetus behind, starting the film festival, just getting films in front of people on the South Side of Chicago. But I would have conversations with filmmakers, and I just want to disclose that I am the daughter of a film buff. I grew up at Black Light and Black Harvest. Literally one of my first memories was meeting Spike Lee at the Art Institute of Chicago when he was driving across the country with his film. And so, I've always attended film festivals. I've always sort of sought out independent Black film, and I would meet these filmmakers. And the ones from the South Side of Chicago would say, well, Black Harvest is our only shot to get our film screen in Chicago. And if they weren't selected by Black Harvest, they would just say, well, on to New York or on to LA. And they were literally just doors closing in their faces. And I remember I had a conversation with Derek Dow, who is now teaching film at Chicago State University. And I said, well, Derek, what would it take to do a film festival in the South Side? And he said, listen, you need a screen, an audience, and a film. Literally, that's all you need. And I said, yeah, okay, we can put that together. And so lo and behold, in 2017, we started a film festival. I approached 10 different venues on the South Side of Chicago. 9 of them said no. The only place that said yes to a South Side Film Festival was the former Studio Movie Grill Theater. So that gives you some sort of indication. And these are not venues on the North Side. These are places on the South Side of Chicago. So, you talk about your mission and what drives it. I mean, a lot of it was just outrage. Is that, can I reveal that? I was angry and outraged.
You saw a need.
at the lack of reverence for the art of film on the South Side, and the lack of importance placed on filmmakers on the South Side of Chicago. So, people say that bitterness can consume you or can drive you, to do great things. And I feel like with my team, we've been able to accomplish our mission with the support of, what used to be the Studio Movie Grill. We get a lot of support from IIT. We have some friends at some of the local foundations. And so we're just grinding away.
I'm glad you mentioned foundations because, this has been a very good year for organizations of color. The Community Film Workshop was a recipient of one of the Chicago Cultural Treasures grant. And so, but talk about having money to do programming. Because that has, people would always say to me, Margaret, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do it. Well, you have to have money. And if people are not funding you, when I think about the programs that I developed 30 years ago or more that people are doing now, but other organizations, not Black organizations. But the one thing that has hindered us the most is the lack of funding. And I'm so glad that you were able to find it.
We need to talk about that, Yvonne, because I want a building too.
It's a gift and it's a skill. And now that the doors are opening up for people like me who have that gift to do fundraising, it allows us to do some things. But I really want this audience to know what we have to go through because we don't have the money. It doesn't happen to you. Okay, no, we know because that's the University of Chicago program. But for us, I want the audience to understand the need for funding and community support.
Yeah, I'm just going to be honest. I just showed up 5 years ago, totally unknown to anybody at these foundations, not from an arts and culture background, never on the board of a nonprofit, just like it was just a totally new world. And so, I had new eyes, outsider eyes, and what was striking to me was good intentions coupled with a lack of connection to the community. I mean, every foundation has, noble intentions. They have good intentions. They're literally giving away money. But I was struck in Chicago by and I don't, initially I thought it was just sort of generational, sort of people being out of touch with a younger generation or a generation that they didn't belong to. But I just feel like there are not a lot of people from the South Side of Chicago making grants on behalf of or like embedded in or working in these foundations that are not only in Chicago, but, in New York or LA or Atlanta, what have you. So I just feel like there's a disconnect from what the perceived needs are and what the actual needs are. And that was striking to me. And when I would give my little elevator pitch talk and say, there's like 100 film events in Chicago and there's none on the South Side. And people would just say, no, well, we gave Margaret some money a few years ago and, we did this and we did that. And I'm just like, well, there's some need, there's some demand there. So I just feel like there's just, there's a disconnect.
Well, I felt that decades ago when we have a zillion theaters on the North Side and we only have a handful of Black theaters for this whole city. It always has been that kind of, since Harold Washington passed, the money just flows north. And so we are, some of the foundations now are hiring more Black and brown program officers. So hopefully we will see some change in that. But they equate budget size with your ability to do the work, which has always been the thing with us. We always have done quality work. We've done quality work enough so that other people copied our work and got grants for it. Forever. Okay, but they wouldn't fund me, but they fund people who copied my projects and funded them. So I'm just saying this, and it's true. I don't have to lie.
I think we have seen that a lot of times.
Yes.
We'll go to the majority organization, and then the majority organization will trickle a few dollars down to the BIPOC-led organizations, the
Mhm.
Black, the people of color organizations. So I do think, what you're saying, like they fund the larger organizations because they, part of why they're sustainable is they do have a large budget.
Yeah, they say
know
you.
what I mean?
That's their reason not funding you, because you're not sustainable.
And then this is what happens. So the majority foundation or organizations, receive the funding. The money trickles down to community film workshop.
Mhm.
Margaret runs the whole DVID program, right? Is an example.
Yeah.
Those filmmakers end up in the grant, the final report.
Mhm.
Who did the work?
That's right.
Who was granted the money? Do you see what I mean? Like there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Who's actually doing the work that the funder is really proud of? Who's on the ground working with the filmmakers? But who receives the grant? And so, there is a disconnect. We're hoping there's a group of us, some BIPOC organizations, OTV, Mescala, and Full Spectrum and Sisters in Cinema. We actually, because it all started because somebody was upset around this exact thing that I'm talking about happening. And we got together and we started a little think tank and to try to figure out what we can do about this, because we're the ones actually doing the work. I mean, all of us touched unapologetic. Well,
Yeah.
almost. I know
We wanted to
coming.
screen it, yeah.
it's coming. So, and that's that film is amazing. It documents Black women and gender non-conforming folks organizing in Chicago back in 2015, before this, and the wins that they have by going out. And we really get to understand them as individuals instead of the way we see people a lot in media, Black women. Anyway, I'm losing my voice, but
Okay.
Anyway,
Justin, you've been jumping in. Okay, go ahead.
No, it's totally fine. I understand because again, this is a project that is founded by a university professor that one would think, that, oh, well, it's set, it's in perpetuity. This will exist, shall exist. But let's also talk about it did not exist for quite a long time. And in fact, I was kind of noting a little bit about when we think about archives and thinking about moving image archives, there's literally an association for this, and they have a regional archive group, and there's only about 24 of them around the world that are actually focused on local history using the moving image. And then let's look at how many are actually focused on telling the story from we collect film from amateurs, filmmakers of the South Side, but because of the format, 1920s through 1980s, we're actually seeing a lot of our filmmakers are mostly Black, right? The South Side is changing. It's changing to the composition which it is today. And so we're telling a lot of unique perspectives of Black life that are truly migration stories of folks finding a new soil, a new home, and then building a life around it. That was not something that was necessarily precious, that was being archived. And through certain levels and scales of driver's license, right? Having the PhD, having the university, and then having an ability to pitch, to say, can you add in some seed money just to get this started? Well, we had a little bit of seed money to get it started, but it is all actually coming from our relationships, our roots in the community to actually do the work and to do it at a very small budget and small scale, because we would like to go beyond 1980 and go into other formats, to go into the video, go into the videotape, go into the DVDs, but all the digital media, but we cannot without actual proper funding, without more capacity, without more personnel. And so, and when Professor Stewart and I were talking about me moving over to work there, she told me, I have a budget that can guarantee your job for 2 years. That's it. And we don't know what happens after that. And that is still the reality, despite, the level of quality at which she does her work and her prominence in the world. It's just the precarity of what we think about cultural history, particularly for Black people, are we going to invest in it? We're going to invest in preserving it. Are we going to invest in exhibiting it? Are we going to invest in developing it? Mm-hmm. This is an ecosystem, and it needs more investment. So yeah.
Okay, so we've gotten into some murky water, haven't we? But okay, now I'm going to bring in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago now, simply because that's the what's on the news in the landscape now in terms of building a studio on the south side of Chicago. Now, we know that we've talked to people who work in the industry who have been guests on our production institute. And one thing is there was a complaint that they don't see enough of the South Side on the shows that are being produced here in Chicago. And he said, well, to be honest with you, they can't get insurance coverage. And that they do a police thing every day to see where the shootings were and what was happening and all of this. And that's why they don't go beyond certain neighborhoods and come and shoot on the South Side. And so I want to know, given the environment that we have in our community, given what we want to see happen on our community, will this have an effect? Now, I know that the state of Illinois started a diversity program a couple of years ago. And this week, the city of Chicago put out an announcement for a request for proposals for someone to manage this workforce development program. I was part of the group that they had invited to participate. And they only have 25 positions that they are going to train people for, and 10 of them are for production assistants. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you made that face.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
That was, yeah. $240,000. That's what they plan to spend for the person, for that overarching organization to run this program, to get 25 jobs in the field. We could do a lot of money with that one money. We could produce all the people in the world for them to get, more than 25, I know that much. But anyway, how do you see this new thrust of film production in Chicago affecting independent filmmakers and people of color, especially in our community? What impact do you see that have, if any?
Well, let me just jump in. I know that it's raising expectations of the filmmakers that we deal with. Mm-hmm. They see it in the media, they see it in the news, they send me an email, a text message. Do you know anybody that's associated with this new developments, mm-hmm. in South Shore? Do you know anyone that can help me get on, South Side or any of these shows? So it raises the level of expectation for the filmmakers. But sadly, again, you talk about a disconnect, but sadly, it just seems like if you're not friends with somebody, that's writing the checks, or if you don't know someone on the production team, it's very difficult. The perception is that there are gatekeepers, mm-hmm. right? And if you're not known to the gatekeepers, or if you're not liked by or favored by the gatekeepers, it's not for you. Mm-hmm. So, people are aware, the filmmakers that I work with, they're aware of it. Some of them have access to it. Majority of them do not believe that they do or will mm-hmm. have access to it. They're skeptics. There's a lot of skepticism. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's based on experience or cynicism. People are waiting to see if it's really going to be equitable.
Okay. And I want to add that, this convening that I was talking about that I'm participating in, one thing came up was that we realized kind of what you're saying, that the film office, the film industry, their concerns and their goals are not aligned with the independent filmmakers. Mm-mm. The film industry is interested in wooing Hollywood to come here to make films. We're not in Hollywood. The film industry offers this really great incentive to shoot in Illinois, or the state of Illinois does.
Right.
30% tax credit. So you only need to raise 70% of your money.
Mm-hmm.
But your budget needs to begin at $100,000, which is not in reach. That budget is out of reach for a lot of independent filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disconnect between the industry, the way it's set up, the way it's run, and then if you can even have an opportunity to get in, and the reality for independent filmmakers, particularly those on the south side of Chicago. Huge disconnect.
I obviously have less to say on this, unless I put on my other hat where we were doing the production institute together. But I would just speak a little bit about something I've been meditating on as an archivist, that is, and how we activate our archive at the Southside Home Movie Project. And it is with this idea that the projects that we work with, we want them to be aligned with our mission, which is to not just to have a respect for the home movie footage and where it's coming from, but also to use it in a manner in which it highlights and it promotes the celebration of mostly Black life on the South Side of Chicago. And so we, with the activation of archives and the commodification of archives, which we see more actively in the use of commercial media the last couple of years, we occasionally get these requests that are way off page, where this is not going to quite fit, this isn't going to work. And to me, it relates to the issue that which you raised, Margaret, as well as what you all are facing as well, of how do we provide the resources, such as this source material, this footage, and that actually helps the development of our ecosystem of independent filmmakers or documentarians who are actually interested in telling stories that are going to change the world in the manner in which we are ethically aligned to seeing that world be shared or envisioned as. And so I do believe there is something that we all, that even as an archive, that we have to say in that matter. And particularly even through our, you asked about, what do we do with our programming dollars? We decided to put our programming dollars behind what we believe in, which was to work with Southside musicians and DJs and to work with Southside artists to actually tell the stories of the Southside. Mm-hmm. So let's start there and not just wait for those who would commodify our work to then say how this footage could be seen. But let's do it in partnership, in collaboration, and actually create what we want to see out there. And I think that's what we all have in common is we're not waiting for someone to give us permission. We're creating the world we want to see.
Yeah, I think that's very true. All of us collaborate. We all have partners because it truly, if I didn't have partners, I wouldn't be able to do the programming that I do and be able to build the kind of documentary and narrative filmmakers. Okay, Michelle, you wanted to say something.
I wasn't sure how we were doing on time. Do we still have time to talk? 2 more minutes? Okay. All right. Okay.
Did you want to say something in the 2 minutes?
Just thank you all for coming out.
I want to just say something to everybody here because I know everybody is a film lover because you're here. Now, the one thing that you can do is to support the organizations and to get other people to support it. And I'm guilty of this. I don't go to all of the screenings, but to go to the screenings. And now that I can pay myself a little bit more money, I will be donating. We would appreciate a donation. We really need that support, community support. And that's how you're going to help us develop stories that are true to our culture and to have institutions like Sisters in Cinema and the Chicago Southside film festivals to thrive. We have to support them. We have to support more than the lottery and liquor stores, okay? So, and we have to get our friends to support the arts-based organizations. And that's my plea to you. The other is before we go into our films that I'd like each person to just briefly introduce the film that's going to be showing when we leave the podium up here. Starting with you.
Okay, sure. So as I mentioned, we particularly during COVID, we began to deepen our partnerships with Southside artists in a new way. We developed a series called Spinning Home Movies. Our 16th episode actually premieres next week with Decompose. But we're actually today going to show a film by our house DJ today, DJ Ray Chardonnay. Her film is entitled If for a Moment Utopia. It's quite wonderful, and I hope you all enjoy.
And I want to start off by saying shout out to Joy Norris, who's our program manager and plans all of our screenings. I think she's in the audience. And she helped plan this event in collaboration with CHF today. So I'm really delighted. The film we're going to be screening is directed by Kai Thomas, who is one of our documentary fellows. It's called Change the Name, and it focuses on 5th graders at Village Leadership Academy. We meet them in 5th grade, and we also meet them again as 8th graders through their social justice class, where they have a fight to change the name of a park from that of a slave owner to Anna and Frederick Douglass. It is a beautiful 20-minute short. Get your Kleenex out now, because these kids are out there doing the work. So I'm really excited that you'll have a chance to see it.
And before we go to Michelle, I just want to say that Kai was a Divot Fellow.
Kai also is in David. Yes.
Yeah.
Today's Kai's birthday. I hope Kai's here. I don't know. Yay! It's her birthday. Yay! Kai's here.
Okay. We submitted SOS Save Our School for our contribution to this evening screening. And sadly, it's about some students coming to terms with the planned closing of Harbor High School. It's a delightful film. It was made by Southside native Terrence Thompson. Terrence, are you here? Is Terrence here?
Good.
Hey, Terrence, stand up. Stand up. I believe, and when people have a bunch of kids, they say they love all their kids the same way. So I deal with a whole lot of filmmakers in the South Side, but he's exceptional, which is why we submitted the film to be screened here. He's great. He's an emerging talent, and I hope you all enjoy the film.
Okay. Thank you so very much.